This is Safrina Kadri from Feng Shui and Prosper. Hi, C. Graham. Thank you so much for joining. Today I wanted to talk about a little bit about Feng Shui, so hopefully you are familiar with the term. The title today, as I've titled it for this Periscope, is negative features at the front door, and I'm talking about negative Feng Shui features. Now, for you guys who are not familiar with Feng Shui, just in case, it is an ancient Chinese metaphysical study of space and time as well as the energy. And there are certain spaces that are considered more lucky and other spaces that are considered blocked in terms of more prosperity. And when we talk about prosperity, we're talking about not just money, but also in health and relationships. Hi, get to the Chopa and everyone else that has joined. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Let me know where you're watching me from. This is only my second real attempt at a Periscope, so be gentle with me. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this scope is going to be talking about Feng Shui, specifically for Feng Shui at your front door. So I have a short list here about features that you want to avoid. Oh, Kauai Dovan, BC is in British Columbia, so Canada, eh? That's cool. That's awesome. Awesome. Hi, Shorty0212. Thank you for joining me. And if I'm missing some other, I know there's a few other people that joined, but I think I missed your handle there. So sorry if I didn't mention you. Nihat Bostanchi, very interesting names coming up. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so first thing, and you might want to think about, especially for a house, you want to think about how these negative features are affecting the Feng Shui for the space that you're living in. So the first one is the front door and the back door is aligned with each other. So if you're coming in from your front door and you immediately see the back door, that is a negative front door feature, but it's not the end all and be all if that is the case for your home. Especially if the front door and the back door is far apart, like if it's like a fairly long unit, you definitely will have, furniture or plants or anything in between that space. So as long as you have something, or even a chandelier, if you have light fixtures that kind of break the energy, that's really all you need between the front door and the back door. So let's say if you're buying a house or if you're looking for a place to rent, and the moment you see the front door aligned with the back door, really don't sweat it. As long as you have something in between, then you're good. Okay, thank you for the hearts. Oh, this is only my second scope. So if you guys see any value with what I'm sharing with you today, I would love to get some hearts. I am very, very excited with hearts. Okay, and so that's the first feature that I want to talk about, but really it's not a big deal if that's your case. Okay, the next one is having a tree or a pole right in front of your door. So what I mean is, let's say you take your smartphone or whatever, and you're taking a picture of your front door and you're looking out the front door, okay? So if the frame of the photo, have it fitting right to the frame of your front door. If you see a hydro pole, an electric pole, or a tree, specifically bigger trees, like the smaller trees, it's considered piercing sha as well, that's what we call it, but the bigger the tree, the bigger the issue. So if you have a pole or a tree right in front of that door, and the closer it is, the stronger the effect as well. That in Feng Shui is what we call piercing heart sha. And usually when we see this kind of structure outside the front door, there's a lot of disharmony in that house, and there's losses as well. It can be losing someone, losing wealth, can even be losing health. So really, if the tree is in your property and you're actually able to cut it down, that would be something that would be recommended. The problem with Canada, where I'm at right now, is a lot of the trees are actually municipal trees, so there's nothing that can be done to remedy that. Unfortunately, you can't cut it down because it's not your property. So especially if you're buying a house, do not get a house that has a big tree or a pole right in front of the front door. Okay, actually a really, really important feng shui structure to look at. And the Y junction or the T junction at the front door. Now, a lot of feng shui enthusiasts, you've probably heard that T junction at the front door is bad. I would say 70% of the time it is bad, because that makes the energy almost like it's crashing into the front door, right? So if you think about a car that's going down that T-junction, so you have your house here, right? Especially where the front door is right where the T kind of, comes together, right? So imagine the car coming down this road. Yay, hearts, more hearts! Coming down this road. And if it loses its brake or whatever, the car will crash into the front door, right? So that can happen. But chi-wise or energy-wise, that is just how strong or how aggressive that energy is also crashing into the house as well. Oh, thank you, Yole Hop. Thank you so much. I think, are those your hearts? Thank you. Yeah, so there are certain situations where the T-junction is actually good, and this really depends. There's no general one bit of advice that I can tell you right now, because feng shui in its classical form actually is very detail oriented. Hi Manoj, thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about feng shui at the front door, and actually, if you are not following me yet on Periscope or Twitter, feel free to follow me. And if you know other friends and family who are interested about feng shui, I'm not sure how you do it on an Android phone, but on the iPhone, I know you can swipe to the right, I think, and invite your friends and family to watch this go as well. I have a few other tips coming up. So we were talking about the T-junction. So there are actually situations where T-junction's actually good, and especially if energetically where the energy that it's crashing in from is actually prosperous. So that actually brings up more prosperous energy. Hi Manoj, thank you for joining. Yeah, but if it is in a negative spot, and it's hard for me to tell until we actually have a compass reading. And if any of you guys have tried a feng shui consultant before, if they come to you without using a compass, they're not classically trained. There's a lot of really bad information about feng shui out there, things that you need to worry about, or things that they tell you are make or break, but really there's a lot of workarounds around it. The T-junction is one of it, because I get a lot of real estate agents and they can't sell houses, some of the houses, because they're right in front of a T-junction. And depending on the house, sometimes most times it's bad, but sometimes it's actually something that you want to leave as is. And oh, thank you, Manoj. Thank you for inviting your followers to jump on this go with us. Oh, Kawai. Well, sorry to see you leave, but follow me on Periscope. I'm gonna be doing a few more scopes after this. Thank you for joining anyway. Yeah, so the real estate agents and of course the sellers, they're really concerned, because nowadays it's not just, especially here in Canada, it's not just Asian buyers who believe in feng shui. you know, a lot of my clientele, I'm a feng shui consultant and I've been doing it for over 7 years now. Most of my clientele actually don't have any Asian background. So they can be Spanish, Italian, Russian, whatever. If they look at a house and they see a T-junction, they naturally, well, the ones who have been following feng shui will naturally know that it's very likely a bad structure for the house. Right? I wouldn't say 60-40, actually maybe 80-20. 80% of the time it is negative for the house. But if they like everything else about the house, but the T-junction is bothering them, then they don't make an offer. And that's why a lot of real estate agents come to me, because they're like, Safrina, this house has been on the market for months and months, and everyone's talking about the T-junction being the breaker, or the deal breaker for the house. The way to deal with the T-junction, especially if it's a front door, is really to build something that can stop the energy. So imagine if there is a car that's crashing into the front door. Hi, Young Dizzles. Thanks for joining. If a car is on its way to crash into the door, if you have something in between the door and the street to stop that car, then that's all you need. It can be a wall, it can be a hedge, right? Some bushes, or if you want, you know, just move the front door, right? Do a little bit of renovating. That's actually what I think Donald Trump did with one of his towers. He actually moved the main entrance of I think the Trump Towers, because it had better energy. I'm not sure if it's specifically because of the T-junction, but I know he was advised to move that. Young Dizzles, I am coming from Toronto, Canada. And feel free to let me know where you're watching the scope from as well. I would definitely love to know where you guys are coming from. Okay, so that's my, and the same thing for the Y junction as well, right? So the Y junction goes like that. It's the same principle. Morgantown, that's in the States? Sorry, my geography is a little bit bad. Okay, and then the next tip in terms of negative features for front door is, I have a little bit of an accent. Well, I'm born and raised in Malaysia, and I came to Canada about 14 years ago. So I guess I still have a Malaysian accent. I'm not sure. Try not to have a house at the end of a cul-de-sac. There is actually not a feng shui remedy for this. So as best as you can, not be in a cul-de-sac, because the energy just doesn't stay, and therefore whatever energy that the house ends up getting will be very weak, right? So you definitely don't want that. And some of my clients are lucky enough to kind of, you know, not be affected by this. It's a street and then leading to a cul-de-sac, but if your houses are more on the street side of things, then that's still okay. Okay, it's the one that's around the cul-de-sac that need to worry. Young Dizzles, am I a real estate agent? I am not. I am a classically trained feng shui consultant. I do work with real estate agents, and I am working with a builder right now, where clients actually are looking at building a home, their homes from scratch, making sure that it's got solid feng shui foundation, and that's where I come in. I look at the blueprints, I work with the architects and the engineers to make sure that it's as strong feng shui wise as possible. I was thinking about being a real estate agent, but I think that's just putting too much on my plate. Okay. Another structural issue is not being able to see the front door. Especially some doors are off the side. So if you're standing in front of the house, you see maybe like a 2-car or maybe even a 3-car garage, and then the entrance is kind of like hidden off of the side, right? So just imagine if, let's say, a postman, hi Takaki, Paulo, thanks for joining us. If, let's say, you have guests coming, or the postman coming, and they're like, where's the front door, right? That's what happens in real life, but the chi will also get confused. The energy will get confused in terms of, wait a minute, where's the front door? And why is the front door so important in Feng Shui is because that's where we call it the mouth of qi. That's where the qi comes in. So just imagine, just like a body, right? The analogy of a body. The energy comes into our body in the form of, food, right? That's how it gives us energy, gives us sustenance. So if the food can't find our mouth, then the body's going to be weak. The same thing applies if it's if the energy is confused as to where the front door is. So usually a good way to kind of make the front door more pronounced is either keeping it a little bit brighter or maybe putting some flowers or whatever to make the front door more obvious. That would be one way to do it. And sometimes I also see houses where there's like a fruit tree that's that's really abundant with leaves and plants and all that, and it totally covers the front door. That's another that could be another issue as well. Okay, and then the last one that I have here is this is an issue at your front door if you can see a tower or a pitched rooftop or even a sharp church steeple, and especially pylons, because these are huge structures right outside your front door that is not just giving you negative energy, weakening the energy that ultimately comes through the door. Pylons specifically, we have to worry about EMF as well, and that's Feng Shui is all about energy, even if it's electromagnetic. I forgot what the F is. Is that frequency? I think it's frequency. Yeah, so if you're in the market to look for a new place to live in, do not have these huge external negative structures right outside the front door, because obviously you can't remedy that, right? I have a client wanting to buy a place where there's a huge electric or hydro tower, we call it here, right outside the front door. And he asked me, can crystals help this? Well, realistically, can a little crystal ball deal with a huge external structure like that? It doesn't make sense. Some Feng Shui practitioners out there have a solution for everything, and I have an issue with that, because that puts clients or Feng Shui enthusiasts in a false sense of security. You can't put a little crystal ball or whatever to deal with such a big thing like that. A tree, a lamppost, maybe, right? But the bigger the external aggressor is, the better the reason for you to actually not choose that place, right? Prevention is definitely better than cure. So that's all the notes that I have in terms of front door Feng Shui, in terms of negative structures. And if you are new to me, feel free to follow me on Periscope. I am hoping to do more scopes with, and hopefully getting some questions from you guys as well. Then I can also answer them on the spot. And feel free to also look me up on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. Just look up Feng Shui and Prosper. And my website is fengshuiandprosper.com. I'm on Twitter, obviously, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and Google+. And I'm starting on Instagram as well. But, whatever social media floats your boat, feel free to look me up there. And I hope to see more of you guys, and maybe a little bit more questions as well, to make it a little bit more interactive. Anyway, unless you guys have any questions, I am going to leave the scope where it is right now. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today on my second ever scope. And hopefully see you guys next time. Ciao.